Here's some news, some updated news. I'm going to keep the news down to just one topic instead of skipping the 5 and 6 different topics. This seemed to be a pretty good one in Brownwood area. Just gives you an idea about some people that write these articles. They really don't know much about the villages. They don't know much about the history. They don't know what the villages did 20 years ago. They don't do their homework. I'll point a couple things out. Now, I don't say I disagree with everything this person is writing in the article, but I don't agree with everything either. The village's entertainment department embarked on an idiotic and potentially precedent-setting path Thursday night during the 4th of July celebration at Brownwood Paddock Square. Apparently, the entertainment powers that be, with the blessing. Now, anytime I use the words powers that be, those are generally directed toward a developer. He's the powers that be. But that ain't necessarily true. It says apparently the entertainment powers that be, with the blessings, no doubt, of the millennial Morse family members who quickly are taking charge of the villages, decided to toss aside a winning philosophy and a rich tradition by offering villagers the chance to shell out big bucks for a VIP experience at the All-American Brews and Cruise. That would be the name probably of the 4th of July celebration down there. That package, which allegedly sold out, cost $50 per person, $80 per couple, and $225 for a table of 6, and was promised to include VIP tent access, reserved seating, direct access to the dance floor, appetizers, 2 free drink tickets, and a VIP cash bar. Unfortunately, for those who bought into that mumbo jumbo, the VIP area was located in the narrow entrance to the back of Paddock Square between bleacher seats. I would think that might be a fire marshal issue right there, but anyway. It contained a few tables, judging by the small number of seats under the VIP tent. We're guessing sold out is a misunderstood term for the village's entertainment department, and a small group of people were enjoying appetizers and having drinks. Granted, it poured rain a good portion of the evening, but the setup in the VIP tent included a few chairs and tables that we'd have to believe the majority of the villagers realized it was a bunch of hogwash and simply steered clear of it. Also, from what we could see, the promised direct access to the dance floor was no different than that enjoyed by those who paid nothing and sat in the bleacher seats to enjoy Johnny Wild and the Delights. Ooh, that's a good group right there. Remember that name. That's a good group. And we're not sure what the VIP cash bar was all about, but villagers sitting in the free seats sure seemed to be making trips to the cash bars as well without having to pay for the privilege to do so. We're also told by Village of Hadley resident Kathy Welch that those participating in the car show on Thursday night were required to pay $10 apiece and send in 3 photos of their vehicles so the entertainment brass could decide which classic cars they wanted parked at the square. We haven't figured out the angle here yet because 20 cars equals $200, and even when we don't believe the Morse minions are that greedy. $200, I wouldn't. That ain't worth them messing with, really. I don't know anything about that either. While we're at it, we'll mention something that should irritate residents and every resident owner in Brownwood. The villages brought food trucks to the event, even though several owners pay exorbitant amounts of rent to operate restaurants there. Stop there. First of all, food trucks is not new. They've been doing food trucks for probably, I'm just going to throw it out there, 15 to 20 years that I know of. That's not new. Second of all, exorbitant amount of rent. The downtown restaurants, because of their location, I'm sure pays more rent per square foot than probably a restaurant outside the village's location. There's no doubt probably about that. Location, right? But how do you know it's exorbitant? Because everything I've read about the village's rent, and a lot of it's public information, when they compare it to the nationwide average of what corporations are paying per square foot in what I want to say, in privileged location, things like that, like downtown or in the middle of say a busy mall, the villages is actually a little bit below the national average. So I'm not sure what you mean when you say exorbitant rent, and how do you know that? Unless you rented something down there, I don't know how you would know that. And so they really did nothing more than come in, grab hard-earned money from villagers, and then scoot back to their home cities. Well, that's not just done here. That's done probably everywhere. The circus comes to town, grabs your money, and moves on. That's just the way it is. Frankly, we don't understand the sudden fascination with food trucks. It's not a sudden fascination. See, this guy's writing something that he really doesn't know nothing about. Food trucks has been on the upswing now for, I don't know how many years, but a long time. If you ever watch any of the food channels, they always have a segment in there about some local food trucks and this and that. Philadelphia, for one, has lots of them, and a lot of them have like 5-star ratings. I can tell you in California, I ate at a couple of them when I used to run out there every week, and they had better food at half the price than any restaurant I was ever in. They were absolutely fantastic. I'm not saying they all are, I'm just saying the ones that I were at were just absolutely fantastic. Last month it was announced that the developers is dispatching 2 of them to the Cattail Recreation Area in the village of Marsh Bend. In a community that's known for providing a wide variety of restaurants for its residents, note, to Morse millennials, retirees aren't much on eating at vehicles oftentimes referred to as roach coaches. In the blazing sun when temperatures topping 100 degrees, when they have the option to sit in air-conditioned restaurants and enjoy tasty meals cooked in a kitchen without wheels. I'm not going to disagree with that. You know, I don't want to stand in 100 degrees. That's why I don't go to Disney World in the summertime. I just think it's nuts. I don't have kids anymore. My grandkids are all grown up. I'm not standing in line for 2 hours to ride a ride with my grandchild when it's 100 degrees out. I'm just not doing it. And I agree with you about standing in line at a food truck somewhere. That is true. I would rather be in an air-conditioned building, or at least in a breezeway with the fans going, where you got a breeze going through all the time. But that is true. But once again, I'll just say the food truck idea here is not new. They've been doing it for a long time. Of course, we all know there's a much bigger problem here than some silly VIP experience. That clearly was a waste of time and money. Unfortunately, this kind of thing signals a huge shift away from the philosophy preached by founder Harold Schwartz and Village's architect H. Gary Morse, who both demanded that executive golf and town square entertainment would be free every day of the year. And let's not forget their all-important messages that all villagers are equals, whether they have millions of dollars or live on a shoestring budget. Apparently, that way of thinking didn't get passed down to the 4th generation, because this group, this first family members, who haven't had to work for their riches, clearly seems to enjoy the idea of catering to the haves who line their pockets with wads of cash and forgetting all about the have-nots who still deserve to enjoy the same perks and benefits. I'm not saying I disagree with most of what he just said there. I think it was the way it was said. Who clearly enjoy the catering of the haves who line their pockets with wads of cash. I don't know if that's true. I know a lot of guys that I worked with that in their lifetime ended up doing very well. And they had $1 million or more when they retired. They were my friends for years. I don't have millions and more dollars. They're still my friends. When I go up there, these guys don't seem any different than anybody else that I know. You would never know they had millions of dollars. You know why? Because they worked hard their whole life. They invested well. And they did very well. And they were lucky in life. And I don't hold that against them, and they don't hold anything against me. So I don't appreciate little remarks like that about people that this person clearly doesn't even know. And it says here that apparently the way they're thinking didn't get passed down to the 4th generation because this group, this first family members who haven't had to work for their riches. Well, the family as a whole they're all worth a lot. There's no doubt. But you don't know that any of these kids never had to work. Just the ones that I've met, they started out at a younger age. They give them a job basically at the bottom level, and they kind of learned the business as time went on. They moved up, so that when a CEO maybe moves out of a company, the younger generation has enough experience and knowledge to move right into that. Now, he's going to have different ideas as time goes on, no doubt. But, that's just the way it is. But look at here, we're moving to the fourth generation. I've seen so many businesses that were closed by the time I got to the third generation. Because the third generation, I don't know what happens there, but they just went to pot. So, fourth generation, we're still moving in there. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't disagree with everything he's saying. I just disagree with some of the way he says it. Let's also remember that residents were promised, yes, we know Village's sales reps will say just about anything to sell a home. That's not true either. I know better than that. Sometimes they won't say a lot to get you to buy a house, but if you specifically ask specific questions, they have to let you know. That's the truth and disclosure law. They have to tell you. But if you don't ask, they don't have to act like they know anything. I understand that part. Many things when they sign on the dotted line to move to the village-friendly hometown, and we have no doubt that the inordinate amount of time was spent bragging about free town square entertainment for all villagers. I bought 2 houses here, and the first house I bought, now I already knew all I needed to know about the villages. I know why I came here, and I think most villagers, when they come down, they all pretty much know what they're coming down for. I think like friends of mine that I've met, they came down here because they're pickleball enthusiasts. They love pickleball. And they knew when they came down here and bought a house, that was going to be their number one priority, is going to be having a house within a reasonable distance of their home to play pickleball. Other people come down here, they're big into, say, playing baseball, so they want to be close to a softball field and get into that. Others, obviously, is golf, So, everybody has their own ideas of where they want to be. A lot of them are here for the dancing. And there's people that goes down to the squares and dance literally every night. That's what they do. That's their exercise. They love it. And that's fine. So, to say all villagers is this or that, he's kind of putting everybody into the same bag of mix here. So we're guessing the plan going forward will be to attempt to stick it to villagers with some slick language about VIP experience packages so they pay for a higher dollar acts. I don't know. I won't pay it, I can tell you that. The squares is not my priority. Let's also not forget that Sumter County shells out big bucks to help subsidize town square entertainment at Brownwood and Lake Sumter Landings. So it truly could be precedent setting in a very bad way if villagers who pay taxes and don't buy VIP experience tickets aren't afforded the same enjoyments as those who do. He's making a good point here on that. Going forward, you can imagine such VIP tickets for an annual Mardi Gras celebration. How about the highly popular Christmas parade at the polo fields, or maybe a special VIP North Polo experience? At the highly crowded tree lighting ceremonies, complete with a cup of hot chocolate, a couple of dripping s'mores, a personal, collier, and a special view of that magic moment when the lights come to life that actually can be seen from just about any spot on the town square. We can't even begin to imagine what Schwartz and Morris would say if they could see what the younger generations are doing to the villages. But we know that, like us, they would find it quite sad that greed is quickly ruining the community that nurtured and loved so dearly. This is really a one-sided article without both opposing sides. I understand what he's saying. Do I disagree with everything he says? No. Do I agree with everything he says and the way he says it? Or maybe this is a lady write this. I don't know. No. This did not come from the Village's News, by the way. But I can say it almost sounds like this person has an agenda against the Village's developer. Don't know if they do or they don't, but I would just take this article with a grain of salt, because being a full-timer, I see changes here. Do I like them all? I really don't. Do I appreciate everything that they do? Yes, I do. I haven't found any place any better. Haven't found any place any bigger. 140,000 people and growing fast. They all can't be wrong. It is what it is. So I still say, even if you are on the fence about whether to come to Villages or buy a retirement home somewhere else, you deserve to take a look. That's all I'm saying. Take the lifestyle visit if you want. Rent a small little house in the summertime because they're cheap. Look around. Talk to your neighbors. Go to the squares. Get a golf cart. If you don't have a house with a golf cart, rent one to down at the square. They're really cheap. You can rent them for the week. And, look around and see what you think and try it out. You may like it. You may not. I didn't say it was for everybody. But you deserve to at least take a look before you go somewhere else. And there are several other places right here in Central Florida to look at. You got Stonecrest. You got Del Webb right up here. You got On Top of the World is probably the next largest retirement place here. It's up at Ocala area. I don't know. There's a lot of them around. I don't know the names of all of them. There's several of them. And they're all, the price of houses and things, they're all over the place. They all have their gimmick, though. Every one of them. Like you buy the house, but you don't own the land. I forget what that's called. Be very wary of those. I just don't like the sound of that. Or you'll buy, a lot of them want to buy like a modular home because they're cheap. $60,000. And that's fine. But now you got to rent the land that it's sitting on. Well, let me tell you what I've seen happen down here a time or two. A developer buys that land from whoever owns that, I'll call it a trailer park for lack of better words. And then next you know, everybody in there is getting a notice that you got 90 days to get your stuff out of there, because they're going to develop that land and put houses on it. And then these people call around and they're looking for a place to move their trailer to, or their modular home, whatever you want to call it. Just to find out that other parks here that has openings are saying that if it's over, like, say, 10 years old, you can't bring it in. You got to buy a new one or something. So it's in a rock and a hard place kind of thing. So just be very leery of those too. And then some other ones, that has golf. They don't have near the golf we got. If you're a golfer, this is it. I'm telling you, this is the only place to go down here for the price and everything. They'll have one, maybe two 18-hole golf courses. They'll charge you anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 a year on top of what you're paying for the house to be a member to play on that golf course. Or as a resident, you can play on that golf course at a cheap rate. You still got to pay, but it's a cheap rate. And their amenity fees can be $400 or $500 a month. Our amenity fees right now is $154, I think. And I don't have to do the homework for you. You know how many golf courses we got. The executive courses are free all year round. So that being said, I'm out of here. I hope I kept that within 8 minutes or 10 minutes or less. I got a feeling I didn't. But anyway, I'll see you guys on the other side.